No, that was not too good, unfortunately. I'm thinking of trying the metronome. Let's see this online metronome. How about 150? Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Right, I'll probably have to put this down. Let's see. Let's go on a practice run. See if it does us any good. That was actually low. Let's try 200. Let's see. Still low. Let's try 250. How can I put 250 on this thing? Just like this? Okay, let's try 240. Okay. It's still low. We can usually our training score is 80, 85. So ta 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 ta. Let me think. What can we do here? Maybe we can go. One, two, three, four, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's too much. Let's go 100, 110. One, two, three, four, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's ready. That's ready. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I should go 1, 2, 1, 2, 40. No, I should go 130. Let's go 140. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's go like this on doubles. Doubles at 140. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Try again. That was terrible. My hand's getting... Should probably increase my sensitivity a little bit. I feel like I'm lagging behind with the shots. Oh, stretching out a little bit my hand. That was bad. That was pretty bad. Let's reduce a little bit to 135. 130. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Yeah, this is still a little bit high for me. I mean, it's a little bit too fast for me. I should probably go on 125, take smaller step, because my score is starting to go down, my accuracy is starting to go down, so I have to take it down a peg. So this would be pretty much the practice range for me, even though if I try to max my full speed, I can reach higher than this. My usual score is about 85. So yeah, this means that I should go a little bit slower. I tried to stay on tempo, but it's not too easy. Sometimes you go off tempo just because you have to not only try to click on time, but to move your hand on time. So you might lose tempo here and there, and that's to be expected. You just have to keep on trying to, stay on tempo again. This is not actual music, so you don't have to follow a sequence of correct notes. You just have to catch up. So you can catch up at any moment. Whatever you hit, if you manage to hit on time, you're doing it correctly, the exercise. So you don't have to, it's easier to, it's much like a percussion practice. If you ever trained music, this is percussion practice, this is not harmony practice. So it's a little bit easier. So this would be a good training range. Nice. 93. This is good. I would keep a rule of thumb of, staying on top of your max while being on a high percentage. Let's call this high percentage above 90%. 90% for me is a little bit too forgiving. I would aim for a 95, but 95 might be a little bit too high. If you're reaching 95, you're probably already graduated to higher velocity, to higher speed. So yeah, not below 90. Below 90, you're starting to degrade. You're starting to be too too permissive with yourself. But if you reach consistently 95, or even if you reach a few times in a row 93, you can increase the velocity, the speed a little bit. So let's see how this one goes, and if the next one goes well again, we will increase the speed a little bit more by, let's say, 10 BPM. This is good. It's not a record-breaking score, but it doesn't matter. This is more important than this. Of course, this is important, but if this is high, so this will be on the range. This will be pretty much on the same range, because the variance here is minimum. You can't keep up a 93% accuracy with the beat without the score. Does that make sense? I mean, if you're trying to stay on time, on tempo with the beat, you will be hitting shots a few times every beat. So this is what are we? 125 BPM. So 125 beats per second. I'm doing doubles, so it's actually 250 BPM. One every 250 of a minute. How am I supposed to do that? I'm hitting a shot every 250th of a minute. So if we were to divide 60 by 250, what's calculator? So 60 seconds divided by 250, we get a fourth of a second. So I'm hitting a shot every fourth of a second or so. Given that, if I am hitting a shot every 50 of a second for 93% accuracy, my score should be inside the range of my, what is it called? My high score range, within the acceptable margins of too low and too high. I mean, this is an outlier for me. This is an outlier for me. This is an outlier for me. For me, the good range would be above 80. And 85 would be, the actual good cut. Below 80, I'm being too sloppy. So, again, you keep on respecting that. Let's try and increase tempo a little bit. Let's try and increase by 5. It's barely noticeable. A barely noticeable speed increase. And let's try again. This is acceptable because it's, you know, within close to 93. You can notice that it was a little bit lower. You can notice my score was a little bit lower too. It sort of compensates. I mean, it's within the previous one because it's a little bit faster than the previous one, while the dip in accuracy was not too low, so it kind of compensates. I'm hitting more shots even though I'm missing more shots. I'm hitting more shots more than I'm missing more shots. That's the point. So overall, it's making my score a little bit higher. You know, 20, 29 higher. Barely noticeable, but still good range of practice. So I'm practicing at a faster pace, which is a good thing. So yeah, while not deteriorating my accuracy. So let's go again. I noticed I was out of tempo, and I tried to synchronize again with tempo. It gets a little bit confusing sometimes. It happens in music practice as it will happen here for sure. This is something that you try and get used to. I mean, metronome practice happens. When you practice with a metronome, this will happen to you. It's a given. You know, sometimes you just have to try and listen, really listen to the sound of the metronome and hammer it in your head, because you are going to, because there's the actual measure time and there's your perceived time. The perceived time is the time that you're counting in your head. But when you're counting in your head and playing something, you you get confused. You don't have a mechanism in your head that is independent from all the other mechanisms in your head. You know, the mechanism in your head that counts time is not completely independent from the mechanism in your head that tries to move your hand to stay on time. So if you go out of sync, you go out of sync even though you don't notice, because you think you're counting on time when you're actually not. So you have to learn to take the sound input from the metronome inside your head and to measure yourself according to what you hear, not according to what you think, to what you feel or what you think. You know, the hearing is the most important part. And so we hit a higher percentage, even though we didn't hit too much of a higher score. So let's keep on this tempo. Yeah, this is bad. This is actually bad. Even though above 90%, it deteriorated a lot. Pretty much my score. So from 81, 3K below. also because this went down, down from 93. Going down from 93 is probably also due to the fact that I'm not shooting every time. You should be shooting twice per beat, following this line of exercise. If you're doing it like I'm doing it, so we're measuring 130, but we're hitting 2 shots per beat, so it's actually 260, right? 260 is the frequency per minute on our shots. If you don't shoot, you're probably keeping this high, but you're keeping this low because you're hitting less targets per minute. So let's go again. '84, 81.4. What is that? 81.4 is a little bit of improvement. We're back at the level that we were before, and still 91%, so not all that good. A bit of quite a lot missed shots. So we hit 242 and we missed 24. So that's quite a lot. So let's keep on this. Perhaps we could try this. We could try and push ourselves to the next level and then turn it back down, because pushing ourselves here is probably guaranteed to make us fail. It's probably guaranteed. I didn't notice I pushed myself 5 BPM, so it's actually 10 because we're hitting twice, so keep it in mind. Keep in mind we increased 10 BPM on our shots, but it wasn't too big of an increase, just so I can try and get used to a faster pace, the pace in my mind, and then we can turn it back down a little bit more. This is metronome practice, okay? So let's get ta 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 ta. See that? This is what we were trying to say, that I increased myself in 10 BPM, knowing too well that my score and my precision, my accuracy was probably going down, but I'm a little bit, on the rhythm now. Let's do this for a couple of runs, or 2 to 3 runs, and then turn it back down again where we can hit consistently. This should help us hit targets in a slower pace if we turn it back down after. So let's try. better, wouldn't you say? I mean, sometimes that even happens when you're trying to push yourself a little bit more, even though you still didn't hit the technical 93 for 3 times. You still increase it a little bit, and you still manage to go with it. It might happen. It's just the nature of practice. It's the nature of people. We sometimes do things not according to measures because we are not machines. So that might happen, as well as it might happen the contrary. You might be regularly practicing at a certain speed, and then one day you wake up and you're not feeling too well, and you are not used to that speed, and then you have to try and catch up again. It happens also. It won't happen too big, but this is definitely noticeable when you're practicing consistently and measuring your practice, because if you train today and today's a good day for you, you will get a high score. Tomorrow might be a bad day for you and you won't be able to reach that high score again. This happens every day. So it fluctuates actually. Wow. Look at that. 92, 84. Good. And this is close to my historical max. I mean, my historical max would be 90, 92. 90, 92. But that was with a much lower accuracy just because I was rushing the shots. Now I'm getting close to 85. Let's call this 85. We're basically there. One shot more and I would have hit probably 85. And with a 92% accuracy though. So this is good. This is a good thing. Let's try again. If something's working for you, keep doing it. Well, still good. Not max, but within our accepted score range and within accepted accuracy range. So this is still good practice, so keep doing it. If you start increasing that, then you can increase the BPM. bad. So this doesn't mean necessarily decrease the ppm. Not necessarily, because this could be, you know, you just had a bad run. But if this keeps happening and you can't get past it, then it's a sign that you should decrease it a little bit and take a step back. Look at that. 86. 93%. See? See what I mean? You don't have to necessarily worry. Oh no, this went so bad, I have to turn it down. Don't worry. Keep doing it. If it keeps happening, consistently happening, throughout 5, 6, 10 exercises, then yes, you should turn it down. I would even say 5. If you go higher and 5 times you go low, then turn it back down. Turn it back down a peg. But this is a good sign. Look, 93%, 86 score. So go again. A little bit decreased. I could feel it too. While I was doing it, that was going to be a little bit lower. But still within an acceptable minimum range, let's say. It's barely in the minimum. But this is challenging, you see? Not consistently hitting good scores. I'm fluctuating a little bit between good and bad, so this is pretty much in my limit. This should be pretty much around my physical limit. Let's try and do it. Again, you have to push your limit. Still, not too good. Acceptable? Pretty much, yes. Minimum, this would be bare minimum. Lower end of the acceptability, you know, range. Okay, maybe I should turn it down a little. Let's try the contrary. So 10 BPM again on our shots. 10 BPM increase. Let's see what it does. Now that I am a little bit low. This also could be fatigue. Okay, this could be, you know, you're trying to get tired of doing the same, and you're starting to get tired of doing the same thing over and over, and it accumulates. It's fatigue. You know, you start to fatigue out of the exercise, and so yeah, let's try again. Let's see if this will give any good result or any worst result than before. Let's go. Look at that. Not all too bad. Not too deteriorated. Yes, still not within the acceptable range. But I feel like I can get there. You know, this is still within the acceptable score of 80. This is low. Well, this is not within the acceptable 90. But what happens if I keep playing at this speed? Let's see, 140, 280 actually, 280 shots per minute. See? Still within the range. Good score range. Minimum accuracy range. So I can keep pushing it. I mean, I won't increase speed, but I'll keep at this speed until this starts to improve as well. If this starts to improve, supposing it starts to improve, you see what I meant? I mean, don't be desperate if when you hit this, I mean, I hit below 90, which is our cut, right? The bad cut. So below 90 we would consider bad accuracy. But given the fact that I felt confident enough to be able to hit the 90 within the range, I could try and go again. But if on the next run I feel like it went down, noticeably down, then no, wait. Maybe let's turn it down a little and pull back the speed. Let's try again. Let's see how you go. Within the acceptable range, even though I felt terrible. I felt terrible at it. But if this is still in the cut, I can keep doing it. You don't have to feel always good about it. Be, what's the word I'm looking for? Pragmatic. Look at the numbers for what they are, not for what you feel like. Of course, if you also feel good about them, you can go ahead and try and push yourself, but it's not as important as the numbers themselves. The numbers ultimately are more important. I mean, of course, you don't want to be attached to the number. You don't want to attach your sense of value, your sense of accomplishment to the number that you see on the screen. But you want to pay attention to what number is, if it's within your acceptable range, if it's within, the limits that you're trying to push. You have to try and push yourself. That's what it is all about, what this is all about. Let's try again. If it was within the range, we'll try again. Low. This is an indicator. Acceptable score, low accuracy. Could be fatigue. Could be you're actually pushing yourself a little bit too hard. Let's try and do the opposite this time. Let's reduce this back to 135 and see if there's any improvement at all to be had after we pushed ourselves a little bit farther in the velocity. Let's pull it back down. See if it changes at all our score here. Ooh, low. If you pull back and it's still low, could be a sign of what? Of you already getting fatigued. This could be a sign of fatigue. Because you know you did better than this. You know you can do better than this, but fatigue settles in. Fatigue starts and it builds up, and it's no shame in admitting it. It's no shame in recognizing it and admitting it. You know, it builds up even though you might not even think it's building up. It's a feel. It's something that you will start to eventually feel it, but when it starts to settle in, you might not feel it yet. We're also used to 8-hour work periods and shifts and even more, and we push ourselves through fatigue and through tiredness. We don't even notice when we are starting to get tired, because it's just a tiny fraction of what tired actually feels like. But this could be a sign of tiredness and fatigue. So you know you can do it, but 81, 90%. See? We are still hitting minimums on a lower speed. This is most likely fatigue. So you trained, you made your scores. One real important thing that I forgot to mention, you should be taking notes of this thing. You should be, this is your BPM, let's call it BPM, beats per minute, and this is score. And so you take note of every BPM against score that you go. So BPM, 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 and score for every single run, because you want to keep track of it. You want tomorrow when you start again, you want to remember what BPM you were in, 135. Also, it's important to notice if this BPM here is your double or your single or your triplets. You could be firing triplets, 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 tick 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 ta 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 on the mouse. That rhythm, but your hand has to be able to follow that. So triplets, you're probably going to turn this down by a third. So what is a third of 130? It's 13, basically. Nah, that's a tenth. So what is 135 divided by 3? You have to turn it down by 45. So go to 90. 90 BPM. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, or 90 100. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, if you're counting triplets. So it's important to mention this is doubles, not triplets, because eventually when you're too fast, if you were technically fast enough to reach 240 on the metronome at doubles, then you have to reduce again the speed. If you're at 240 at doubles, 240 at doubles is once every 100 and doubles at 240 is twice per beat, so it's 480. So you're actually hitting a shot every 6 divided by 480, every 8th of a second, double what we're hitting now. That's already top scoreboard. I think I imagine it is. Oh, it might not be. Might not be. 460, and I am hitting, yeah, 200. So yeah, it's not actually top scoreboard. I mean, it's top 10. It's top 10, but it's not, you know, actual top. But if you're hitting one every eighth of a second, then you're hitting at a 480 BPM the shots at a double, 240. So if you want to go further than that, if you want to go 500 BPM, you have to turn it back down, turn your metronome to 125, and then you hit 4 times that. You go to fourths, not doubles anymore. Okay, does that make sense? So this is the work that you do with the metronome. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the metronome training on AIM-Lab. This has been quite interesting. It's the first time I actually try it, but that's the logic that you want to apply when you're trying to, you know, improve a grid shot by using something like a metronome. It makes it consistent. It makes it so that you're keeping score of what's happening, and yeah, it gives you a direction, a clear direction to where you are, where you're heading towards. So that would be it for our training session for the day. We're done with it, and we're going to do something else.